Who knows? But that's the problem. Like, once you get diagnosed, there's a lot of questioning. People kept asking me, do you volunteer with like the homeless population, the prison population? And then I just felt selfish. I was like, no, I don't do anything. I've got a job and my kid, and it keeps me really busy. You know, it's just a lot of questioning, a lot of questions. And so a lot of people thought it was a subway too, because like, a study came out, I guess, then about like all the gross stuff in the New York City subways. So I just think that maybe we're not in New York anymore, but you know, New York City should really look at that when I said I had tuberculosis, everybody thought I caught it on our mass transit system, because it is gross. But so yeah, so anyway, so I'm in there, and I'm in the ICU, and I'm getting better, and then they're talking about moving me to another floor where they have another isolation room. But at least I wouldn't be in like the, you know, the ICU anymore. And while all this is happening, you know, there's my baby. And I love my baby. And I loved my baby then, and I wanted my baby. And when you're in the hospital and you're pregnant, you're the patient. And I knew I was everybody's first concern, and like I appreciated that. But, you know, I felt really like it was about curing me and getting me better. And yes, we're going to try for that baby too. And we're going to, but I'm like, you know, guys, it's like this baby doesn't make it. Like it's not going to be okay. I'm not going to be okay for like a long time, you know. And it was kind of like this question constantly of like, well, my baby, like, well, how are these medicines going to affect my baby? And nobody knew. And I'd be like, this disease is curable, and it's been around for a really long time. So I'm assuming that there's like all sorts of studies and documentation on how this is all going to, you know, impact a fetus, right? Not really. There was like a study this German people did and this Turkish one here. And okay, but so the countries that this disease is like in are like countries like India where there's like a lot of people that are having babies. Like, so someone's got to be writing this down because I'm sure everybody wants to know how that's going to affect those babies. Well, we can't test things on pregnant people. Okay, but they're taking it, so who's writing it down? Nobody. Nobody cares. Okay, what about, and then it was like that whole thing about like, well, when my baby survives, because I know they will, what about breastfeeding? Can I breastfeed on these medications? Like, what's the deal with that? Oh, well, that's the thing. You're always telling patients, right, like, stay positive. Everything's going to work out. You need to stay positive. Experience. Okay, how does this affect how does this affect breastfeeding? Don't get ahead of yourself, lady. You're in the hospital pregnant. Let's just see how this works out. Okay. So there were a lot of things like that where I just kind of felt like, okay, we all know I'm going to be okay, but what about my baby? And it was sometimes we didn't really know if I was going to be okay either. The problem with a lot of these medications is they go through your liver. And when you're pregnant, your liver is super sensitive. So I would take these things, and like my liver levels would go like, you know, all over the place. I had a super awesome infectious disease doctor when I was in New York City. And he would come with me, and he would show me my liver charts and why he was concerned and why I was switching medications yet again. So even though I had very standard, boring, you know, drug-susceptible tuberculosis, I had to go on some not typical medications for the kind they use for drug-resistant tuberculosis because those were affecting my liver less. So every time, too, I would take those medications, there was kind of a wait-and-see period. And if it made my liver go bonkers, I had to go off it and cool down. And then I had to take them again and see if it would work. So as we were getting into more and more exotic treatments, there was less and less information available about how it would affect my baby. I was there a lot longer, and I have another son who I didn't even say, I was just like, you know, I'm going to the doctor, peace out, I'll see you in like 2 hours. You know, it was really hard. I didn't want him to visit me because he had to wear a mask, and I had like a PICC line and all this other stuff, you know, because I wasn't eating, and I looked like, you know, not my best. So I didn't want to scare my kid, you know. These are hard things to explain to him who was 2 years old. So it was very hard. It was very hard being away from I think if I wasn't a mother, this would have been a lot easier. Not that it would have been a walk in the park. I'm just saying, emotionally, it would have been a lot easier. So then they did at least have a plan. My awesome infectious disease doctor, kept trying different things, and then weeks became months. It was weird. I watched all the seasons change outside. We had a really rough winter. I remember one day watching all these young doctors come in and take off like all this disgusting like wet clothing, like, from a New York City gray, gross, snowy day, and just being so jealous because I'm like, they get to be outside, and I'm like, well, I guess it's kind of, and people kept saying that to me too, at least you're missing this bad weather, and I would just be like, and I would just like want to cry because I wanted to shake off my wet boots and I wanted to complain about the weather like everybody else. One of the coolest things, and you guys can tell me if I'm getting too long for this, was I remember watching the Super Bowl in the hospital because everybody else was doing that, and that felt really normal. Like, to the nurses, I'm like, who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl? I'm going to watch the Super Bowl tonight. When you're home with your family, we'll be doing the same thing. I'm just like you. I'm normal. I'm watching the Super Bowl. Maybe I'll get some of those salt-free pretzels you guys give me sometimes, and I'm going to go crazy with the snacks, just like you guys. So that was hard too, feeling not very normal, feeling isolated. I mean, it's isolation, right? And the whole time too, like, I just kept feeling guilty because I still don't know how I got it, right? So I just don't know why my family had to go through this, and what I did, my whole family was tested, nobody else had it. So the good news is I'm bad at a lot of things, and one of the things I'm bad at, aside from punctuality, is that I'm not very good at spreading tuberculosis. I didn't get anybody else sick, which is awesome. That I know of, and that was great, and that was really good. But I did make life hard on people. Anyway, I'm going a little off the rails here. Sorry, guys. So then I started feeling better, and they started talking about what was going to happen when I got out. And that's weird too, because there's like this whole the government gets involved and you're being released from the hospital. Like, I wanted to go home to the state government. I wanted to go home to my parents' house in New Jersey because I was pregnant and I wanted help. And people always make fun of New Jersey in New York. Like, they make fun of it all the time. But I think they actually required a higher or clearer level of sputum for me to get into New Jersey. So, I really do hold that against everybody. I'm just like, New Jersey is like way safer. You guys are filthy, I think I caught TB here on the subway, and no, I'm not on the subway, but I think I caught TB here, and, it's just way better. New Jersey is way better in every possible way. So, I spent a couple enough times that I was able to get out, and, my husband moved us all to my parents' house on his own. And then I got to work with you guys here at the Lattimore Clinic, which is awesome. It was super nice having DOT. I know that now we're moving to the text messages and all that kind of cool stuff, and that's great if it helps people. But it was nice. Like, I liked having someone come to my house because I was still very, I looked like a spider, like a humongous abdomen and like tiny little legs and arms, And it was nice to not have to go out to socialize and to have somebody that knew I had tuberculosis already to talk to, like, about tuberculosis. Because most people I was trying to keep it on hush once I came out that I had a deadly infectious disease that was still being treated. And, so that was nice. And I think DOT is a good thing. I think it's great. It definitely took a minute for me to wrap my head around the fact that someone was going to have to administer my medication, but I liked it. Then I went back to the hospital to give birth. And that was crazy because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how my birth was going to go. I was not in good shape physically. It was obviously a C-section. It was funny, it was entirely female OR, which is just a kind of neat thing to note. And when I came back to the that floor, I knew everybody there. So like one random nurse was like, "Do you used to work here? Because you like know everybody." And I'm like, "No, but I do know everybody. Like I know everybody." And I'm sure they really want me to get out of here again as soon as possible. And they were all like, "Yeah, you can go to New Jersey. Yeah, you'll get a new hospital there too, right?" So I went in and I had a wonderful birth, believe it or not, the world's easiest, most wonderful C-section. And I was lying there with my husband, and I heard the baby cry. And, you know, they tell you pressure, and there's pressure, and you have the big thing, and I just heard this cry and this scream that the first thing I thought was like, oh, those sound like healthy lungs. And it was the best. And they were like, he's big. And they kept saying, he's big. And I was like, oh, you know, he's 7 pounds, which is not normal. But you guys should have, it was big. You know what I mean? The fact that baby was a normal weight. I did carry him to term, and that was like another thing in the hospital. Like, they kept saying maybe we should take him out. Like, that was like and it wasn't a him yet. I was getting a surprise. I was really surprised, guys. And like, so that was the thing. Like every week it was kind of like, okay, well, she's going on this medication and the baby's this old. Is it better or worse? You know what I mean? And there was like this kind of a thing was going back and forth too. Like, is it safer to deliver the baby? And I just kept thinking, no. You know, and it's like, oh, the baby could be deaf if you take it out too early. Oh, the baby could be deaf if you're on levofloxacin, maybe. I know I could go deaf. You know, so I'm just like, ooh. You know, going back and forth every week. And then, but when my baby was born and they said he was big and he was this beautiful 7-pound baby, and I think he was 80% insured, but he was beautiful and healthy and mine, and he's still beautiful, healthy, and mine. I have 2 pictures here, right? Oh, gosh, guys, I'm a technical director of a television station. I should really know how to do this. But I really tried to base my whole life on having a career where I don't know how to do PowerPoint. All right, so this is me in the hospital when I was the day I was released, so that's why I'm happy. But so you can tell I'm kind of thin there, but it's a little hard to tell when I'm pregnant. And I'm in a robe like that. And then there we are, yay! And I didn't breastfeed in the beginning because I was still on some medications I was kind of sketched out by, and I felt like the poor guy had enough. But then I was able to switch over. I rented a hospital pump. I'm just telling you guys this in case you ever run into somebody. I pumped and dumped for a while, and then when I worked with Amy and we got me on rifampin again, my liver could tolerate it. And there was some stuff on that, women taking it, so I felt comfortable breastfeeding on it. He's still breastfeeding. I'm trying to stop. But he doesn't want to give it up, and I guess neither do I to some degree. So it can all be fine. It was fine. And it was fine for me. And it was fine for me because of people like you. And I say this whenever I do these little talks about myself. But I really appreciate all of you being here and all of you caring about TB. Because the world's going to tell you that it doesn't matter over and over again. It's going to give you more attention, more funding, and more everything else to other diseases. You're just going to hear that message over and over again, that this is cured, books closed, move on. But it's not. It's the #1 infectious disease killer. People are dying of something that's curable, and that is like, that's just so sad. So, because I know part of the reason why I had this outcome is because of who I am and how I live. And that's just not fair. So I'm really, really glad you guys are all here, that you took the time to learn about this disease, that you took the time to care about a patient like me. And I mean, I'm telling you from all of our hearts, because there is stigma and some of us are in a position to say it, that it's wonderful that you're all here. And I really appreciate your time. So thank you all very much. I have that video too, but I don't know where it is. It's like, should I put that on or no? Yeah, there's. I don't know. Let me see. Oh, I didn't send it to you. I thought I did. It was too big, probably, because I think it was, okay, well, that's it. Never mind, forget, don't even listen.
We have online audience as well.
Oh, you do? Sorry. But I'm open to any questions if you guys have it. Oh, okay, yeah, thanks. Okay, so the most important thing any of my caregivers ever said to me, that's a really good one, because a lot of people, it's a long treatment, right? Like I just matured this past April. So I could tell you, can I tell you a few things? Because I feel bad rating them. It doesn't feel fair. When I was in the hospital, I'm Catholic, so it was nice when, not all, I mean, the nurses would, I think, I had this one very religious nurse's aide who was not Catholic, but she was some other thing. And she would always come in and she would tell me about the scare she had with her own son, where he had gotten really sick from something else. And she just spent a lot of time talking to me, even when it wasn't her shift. And nurses, especially in like a New York City hospital, those people are working too hard, I think. Like they're like, it's like cram, and I knew it was hard to talk to me. And plus, you have to wear a mask. Like, it's not pleasant to be in my room. Tiny room, gotta wear a mask. It was not fun to spend time with me. But anybody who took any time to talk to me, to talk to my feelings, period, no matter what they were saying, like, I really appreciated it. The last 2 days I was in the hospital, everybody could take their masks off, and that was like the best feeling. And it was weird because people look really the same. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no one really knew the nose and the mouth. You could ID everybody here without it. Like, when people came in, I was like, that's exactly what I thought their chin would look like, you know? And one of the, that was just such a great moment, you know? But also in those last 2 days, all these other volunteers came in that I realized normal hospital patients get all the time if they're not